no one could handle the millionaire's daughter until a waitress did the unthinkable. The first sound that tore through the room wasn't applause or music, but the sharp crack of ancient wood splitting, clean and cold, like a blade slashing through the air. The 175-year-old violin hit the floor of the charity concert stage, its strings snapping loose like severed nerves. The entire hall froze. The spotlight locked onto an 11-year-old girl standing center stage, her dark hair falling over her shoulders, her eyes burning with furious, volcanic intensity. Elena Hale didn't cry. She didn't tremble. She simply stared at the front row, where wealthy patrons gaped at her in horror and spoke in a small, steady voice that cut through the silence. People aren't display pieces. Then she nudged the broken violin with her shoe, as if it had never held any value beyond a chain she wanted to break. The chaos that followed lasted only minutes, but the nation would talk about it for days. The math and coding prodigy with a 147 IQ, the only daughter of Dr. Benedict Hale, the renowned neurosurgeon, had shattered her father's event. The man who repaired the most delicate parts of the human brain seemed powerless to reach the mind of his own child. No one knew what truly set Elena off, but the media was quick enough to brand it. The 11-year-old genius, meltdown. Across town, in a quieter pocket of Los Angeles, Maya Torres stood behind the counter of the Blue Hour Cafe, watching the video on the tiny kitchen TV. The screen flickered with the image of Elena. Wild hair, splintered violin. Maya wasn't easily shaken, yet something in that moment made her set the cloth down, lean against the counter, and narrow her eyes. "That kid's hurting," she murmured, mostly to herself. No one gets that angry without a reason. The Blue Hour Cafe wasn't fancy, but it had warm yellow lights, the smell of slightly burnt espresso, and jazz humming from an old speaker. Maya worked 2 shifts a day, studied psychology at night, and lived in a rented room barely half the size of the cafe's kitchen. She wasn't rich or powerful or brilliant like Elena, but she had something rare, an almost surgical ability to observe. She saw what others missed, fingers trembling when a customer insisted they were fine, a strained smile on a woman pretending to be composed, the flicker of avoidance in a man who'd clearly had a terrible day. As the cafe sat quiet, Maya realized she was still staring at the TV long after the video ended. She tried to shake off the strange feeling creeping up her spine, the sense that someone had just nudged her life onto a different track. She had no idea that within days she, a simple barista, would walk into the world of the Hale family, where people who had everything were missing the thing they needed most: connection. And she didn't know yet that she would become the one person Elena Hale couldn't push away, no matter how hard the girl had tried with everyone else. Maya was still staring at the tiny TV when the door chime gave a soft ring. The jazz track shifted into a slower melody, and the late Los Angeles sunlight spilled through the windows in a warm gold haze. The cafe wasn't busy, yet the air suddenly tightened, not the obvious kind of tension, but the subtle vibration that people like Maya noticed immediately. A man walked in first, a minimalist charcoal suit, a black tie, shoulders slightly hunched as though he had just come from a draining surgery, or a disappointment even deeper than exhaustion. His hair was lightly grayed, his posture composed, but his eyes carried a weight that seemed to press down with every step. Maya recognized him instantly. Dr. Benedict Hale. His presence in a modest cafe on the east side of Los Angeles was enough to make the room's pulse slow by half. Seconds later, the girl behind him entered, sneakers tapping softly against the wooden floor. Dark hair still wild, just as in the video. Elena Hale. Her eyes swept across the cafe, not curious but scanning for weaknesses. She stood there, small but radiating a tension like a string stretched to its breaking point. Maya swallowed a breath, not from fear, but from the strange sensation of standing in front of a living storm cell. Dr. Hale chose a table near the window. Elena immediately pulled her chair back farther, sitting crookedly, as if the space itself was unworthy of proper posture. Maya approached with her notebook, her voice gentle as always. "Hi there. What can I get for you two today?" Elena didn't answer. She simply lifted her gaze, studying Maya as though solving an equation. Then she tilted her head. "Does this place have a drink thermometer?" Maya gave a small smile. "Sure does. What temperature do you want?" 57 degrees, Elena said instantly. "Not more, not less. The milk foam must spiral in a Fibonacci pattern, not a common spiral, and—" She paused dramatically. "If it's even slightly off, I'm sending it back." "All right," Maya replied, jotting it down. No flinch, no irritation. Elena's lip curled, almost disappointed at the lack of reaction. Dr. Hale sighed. "Elena, I just want it done correctly," she cut in, voice sharp as glass. Maya walked back to the bar. She'd had her share of strange requests, but there was something in Elena's eyes that made the challenge feel like more than coffee. This wasn't about temperature, it was a test, a deliberate push to see whether Maya would wobble, snap, or apologize excessively. Maya intended to do none of the above. She prepared the drink exactly to 57 degrees, sculpted the foam pattern, and placed the cup on a tray. She knew what was coming next, and it had nothing to do with taste. She was right. Elena pulled the cup close, sniffed it, took a single sip, then flipped the drink off the table. Milk foam splattered across the floor, streaking the wood. The cup rolled, bumping against Maya's shoe. The cafe went silent. "Too warm," Elena whispered. "Over by 1 degree." Dr. Hale closed his eyes, maybe counting breaths, maybe wondering how many more people his daughter would drive away. Maya stared at the spreading coffee stain. Then she lifted her gaze, meeting Elena's eyes, not with anger, but with mild curiosity, like she was evaluating an art piece. "Not bad," Maya said softly. "The arc was pretty clean, good spread. But your wrist was a little stiff. If it were me, I'd tilt the cup a bit more for a smoother trajectory." Dr. Hale's eyes snapped open in disbelief. So did Elena's, but instead of fury, there was a flicker of shock, as if someone had disrupted the script she had rehearsed. "You're teaching me how to throw a drink?" Elena asked. "No," Maya replied calmly. "I'm saying if you're going to make a scene, make it worth watching." A long second passed. Then Elena turned away, seemingly unsure how to process that. "Get me another one," she said, her voice lacking the earlier venom, though her eyes never left Maya. "Sure thing." And for the first time, Maya felt something strange. Elena was watching her, not to judge, but as if trying to decode a very difficult puzzle. Maya brought the fresh drink over and set it down lightly. Elena didn't throw it this time. She simply looked at it, then whispered, "It's right." Dr. Hale pressed a hand to his forehead, relief so deep it almost trembled. Maya only smiled. But inside her chest, a quiet instinct formed. She had just stepped into a story she wouldn't be able to walk away from. The moment Elena whispered, "It's right," still hung in the air like a fragile note Maya hadn't yet touched when the glass door chimed again under the evening wind. That encounter should have ended like a strange story between a barista and a complicated family. But Maya felt with painful clarity that nothing was truly over. The feeling stretched into the next day until she received a call from an unfamiliar number. The woman on the line spoke politely, yet left no room for refusal. "Ms. Torres, Dr. Hale would like to see you. Today." A few hours later, Maya stood before the towering glass facade of the Hale Neurology Institute, a place regarded as a sanctuary for the most complex brain surgeries in California. Her feet felt slightly cold, not from fear, but from knowing she didn't belong in a world like this. The marble floor reflected her small frame as she followed the assistant through spotless white hallways where even the faint beat of her heart felt too loud. Dr. Hale stood by a large window in a spacious office that felt more like a studio. He turned when Maya entered, eyes tired, but carrying a kind of quiet hope she had never seen in him. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice holding the desperation of someone who had run out of options. "It's about Elena, isn't it?" Maya asked softly. He exhaled shakily. "You did something 12 specialists failed to do," he said. "Elena, let you near her. No screaming, no running, no fighting." Heat rose to Maya's cheeks, though she shook her head. "I didn't do anything special. I just didn't respond the way they expected." "Exactly," he said. "That's why I need you." When he made the offer, Maya almost believed she misheard. A formal position, companion behavioral specialist for Elena. A salary so high her knees nearly buckled. And then he added, as if that wasn't enough, that he would fund her entire master's and doctoral education in psychology. Any program she wanted. "I can't," Maya blurted before she could stop herself. "I don't have credentials. I'm not a specialist. I'm a barista who's barely managing rent." A sharp voice cut in behind her. "And that's precisely the problem." A woman stepped from the adjacent conference room as if she'd been waiting for her cue. Elena Hale. Tall, poised, her beauty sharpened into something dangerous. Her eyes were cool steel, her smile a legal weapon. "Benedict," she said, ignoring Maya entirely. "You can't bring someone like her into Elena's life. A barista doesn't know anything about raising a gifted child." A pulse of anger flickered through Maya's spine, though her voice remained steady. "I'm not gifted, but I saw what your specialists didn't." Vivienne turned to her at last, studying her like a minor inconvenience pretending to matter. Maya swallowed once, then addressed Dr. Hale, her voice firm. "If I take this job, I have 3 conditions." Vivienne scoffed openly, but Dr. Hale raised a hand. "Go on, Maya." "First, I am not Elena's servant. I don't run after her. I don't bow. I'm a companion, not a fixer." "Agreed," he said immediately. "Second, I don't want your sister involved. No interference, no judgment, no pulling strings. I work with Elena, not with adults." Vivienne's jaw dropped, but Dr. Hale said again, "Agreed." And finally, Maya breathed in deeply. "You have to show up. Elena doesn't need another substitute. This only works if you're present, if you come when you're needed, if you're part of the solution." Dr. Hale studied her for a long moment. In his eyes, for the first time, she saw genuine respect. "Agreed," he said. "All 3 conditions. When can you start?" And in that instant, Maya knew her life had just turned onto a path she had never imagined. The decision to take the job echoed in Maya's mind all night, a lingering resonance that made her both lighter and strangely uneasy. The next morning, when the Hales' sleek black car stopped in front of her cramped apartment, Maya knew that the moment she stepped inside, her life would tilt into a new trajectory. What she didn't expect was for that shift to begin, with a coldness sharp enough to raise goosebumps on her arms. The Hale residence in Malibu looked like a block of ice perched on the edge of the ocean. Floor-to-ceiling glass, silver-coated steel, white stone floors, every line so precise and immaculate that warmth had no place to exist. The instant Maya stepped inside, she felt it. Nothing here felt lived in. The house was perfect in the way museum exhibits are perfect, untouched, preserved, and absolutely void of life. Elena stood in the middle of the foyer, arms crossed, gaze as cold as the fog drifting above the dim ocean. She didn't greet Maya, didn't ask anything. She simply turned and walked up the staircase as if Maya's role was to follow. "Do you want—" Maya began, but Elena had already left before the question fully formed. That was the first test. Maya followed at an unhurried pace. She didn't call out, didn't try to stop Elena. She just observed the girl's steps, swift, forceful, but not chaotic. Elena led her down a seemingly endless hallway, past a living room the size of a conference hall, then abruptly stopped and turned to face her. "I bet you think you understand me," Elena said, voice flat and razor-edged. "Every specialist says that." Maya answered calmly, "I don't understand anything yet." Elena narrowed her eyes, as if the response didn't fit any scenario she had scripted. The second test began when Elena suddenly climbed onto the glass railing of the second floor. One lean too far could send her crashing onto the stone floor below. She balanced with disturbing ease, toes pointed inward like a dancer testing a stage. "Do you think I'll fall?" she asked, not looking down, only at Maya. "If you fall, I'll call an ambulance," Maya replied evenly. "And if you're testing my reaction, there's nothing to test." Elena hesitated. Then she hopped back onto the inside floor with feline lightness. No danger, no drama, just another failed test. "Boring," she muttered, walking away. By late afternoon, Maya had endured at least 8 different trials, being ignored, being mocked, being baited with impossible questions. But what exhausted her wasn't Elena. It was the house. Too quiet, too white, too cold. Everything felt like it was holding the breath of a woman long gone. Lydia, leaving the entire space beautiful, but dead. Dinner took place in a dining room, long enough to echo. The table stretched nearly 8 meters between them, so far that the clink of metal on porcelain sounded like it traveled through a tunnel. Maya took a few bites, then looked up. Elena only pushed her food around, silent but watching Maya with the intensity of someone waiting to see if she would speak first. Maya set her fork down. "Seems like you don't like being here much." Elena raised an eyebrow. "Is that a guess?" "No, an observation." Elena leaned back, folding her arms again, the challenge returning. "You observe too much." "That's my job." "And you think observing is enough to understand me?" "No," Maya said gently, "but it helps me notice when you're pretending." Elena froze. Just for a moment, so faint Maya almost missed it. The girl turned toward the glass wall where the night ocean layered itself in dark waves and whispered, barely audible, "You don't know anything about me." "Then tell me," Maya replied softly, not pressing. "Not now, just when you're ready." Elena didn't answer, but for the first time since Maya entered this house, the girl's shoulders loosened, only a little, but enough for Maya to know. The first crack in the wall had formed. After a dinner stretched thin as an over-tightened string, Maya expected Elena to retreat to her room and end the long day with the silence she wore like armor. But as Maya gathered the dishes and walked past the west hallway, a faint sound made her stop. It wasn't music. It wasn't footsteps. It was a low-frequency tone, deep and pulsing like the heartbeat of a submerged creature. Maya froze, letting her psychology-trained ears analyze it. Not accidental, not ambient. Intentional. The sound led her to a door left slightly ajar at the end of the hall, a door she was certain had been locked earlier. The closer she came, the clearer the tone grew, vibrating through the air like something calling from underwater. She pushed the door open gently, and soft blue light flickered across walls lined with advanced acoustic equipment. Frequency resonators, sound therapy consoles, wave monitors displaying shifting patterns. And there, in the center of the room, so different from the sterile, lifeless house outside, Elena stood before a frequency emitter, her face tightened as if holding up the entire sky. On the screen pulsed a steady, warm waveform, almost human. "Elena," Maya spoke quietly. The girl jolted as if shocked. In her eyes flashed not anger, but primal fear. She lunged for the console, killing the sound, but enough residual frequency trembled through the room for Maya to sense the truth. This wasn't a random experiment. "Get out," Elena whispered, voice cracking. "You're not allowed in here." Maya scanned the room, each detail falling into place like a puzzle, revealing itself. This wasn't Dr. Hale's work. His world was steel, glass, sterile precision. This room was different, softer, warmer, full of acoustic therapy tools crafted with emotional intent. "This was your mother's room," Maya said gently. The air froze. Elena stepped back, eyes wide, breath shaking like something breaking inside her. "Leave," she repeated, but her voice faltered. Maya stepped closer, not enough to threaten, but enough to hear. "You're recreating her frequency, aren't you?" The sentence sliced through whatever thin barrier Elena had left. She snatched a small frequency modulator from the table and hurled it at Maya. Maya dodged, and the device shattered on the floor, the crash echoing like a wound reopening. "Don't look!" Elena cried, but the anger had vanished. Only panic remained. "You're not supposed to see this!" Maya didn't move, didn't retaliate. She simply let the truth unfold through the girl's trembling breaths. The room felt like a heart being crushed. The warm tones, the well-worn equipment, the frequency charts Elena had clearly studied for months. None of this was rebellion. It was longing, a desperate attempt to reach someone who wasn't coming back. Maya softened her voice. "You're trying to hear her again, the only way you still can." Elena shook violently, hands clenched until her knuckles turned white. A single tear fell, darkening the cold stone floor. I shouldn't have been there," she whispered, voice splintering. "I was the last one who saw her alive." In that moment, Maya understood. This room wasn't just a room. It was the heart of Elena's grief, sealed and pulsing painfully for 2 years. And Elena had been trapped inside it, alone. The air in the acoustic room still trembled with the remnants of the frequency Elena had shut off moments earlier. Maya stood a few steps away, careful not to move too close, afraid that even the softest gesture might cause Elena to shatter into pieces too fine to gather again. The girl sat curled against the console, hands trembling, eyes red from holding back tears for far too long. Maya wanted to speak, but the fragility in Elena's breathing made every word feel too heavy. Then footsteps echoed down the hallway, sharp, deliberate, slicing through the silence like a blade. Maya didn't have to look to know who it was. Elena knew sooner. She jumped to her feet instantly, erasing the tears with frantic movements as if denying they ever existed. Vivian appeared in the doorway like she belonged to the steel and glass of the house, precise, cutting, perfectly assembled. One hand rested on the frame, her smile impeccable, yet cold enough to stiffen the air. "Well," she said, as if amused by a trivial mess, "this room again. Some people just insist on entering places they don't belong." Elena stiffened, eyes lowering, her body folding inward in a way that spoke of long-practiced fear. Not the fear of children being scolded, the fear of someone used to being diminished. Vivian shifted her gaze to Maya. "Ms. Torres, I assume your first day is livelier than expected." Maya kept her voice steady. "I heard the sound. I just wanted to make sure Elena was okay." Vivian smiled, an elegant, empty gesture. "How sweet, but there's no need to try so hard. Everyone before you tried, and then they learned the same lesson. Roles like yours are temporary, a little patch on a widening crack, a title that looks helpful on paper." Maya saw Elena flinch at the words. Vivian was a surgeon with her cruelty, slicing precisely where it hurt most. "And eventually," Vivian continued, her voice drifting through the room like cold mist from the ocean, "they left, fired, exhausted, broken. And in the end, they were just another line in the failure file." Elena lifted her eyes, not in defiance, but in a silent, hopeless expectation. How many times had she heard this, and how many times had she believed she was the reason everyone left? Maya inhaled slowly, then stepped just close enough to stand beside Elena, not shielding, not blocking, simply existing as a point of steadiness. "Maybe you're right," Maya said softly. "Maybe I'll end up as another name, but the people before me left because they were afraid." Vivian arched a brow. "Afraid of what? Afraid of Elena?" Maya answered without breaking eye contact with the girl. "I'm not." The sentence dropped into the cold room like a warm weight. Elena looked up at Maya, and for the first time, she didn't find fear or judgment staring back at her. Only truth. Quiet, steady truth that made the wall around her hesitate. Vivian noticed, and Maya caught the flicker in her eyes, a flash of something sharp and displeased. "We'll see," Vivian said, turning away, her heels striking the floor like punctuation to a threat. When she was gone, Elena didn't move. She just looked at Maya, long and searching, as though testing the possibility that someone might not run. "Did you mean it?" she whispered. "Every word," Maya replied. "You don't need to believe it now, just let it sit there." Elena didn't nod, didn't reject it. But her breathing eased, a small shift, but in this frozen house, it meant everything. That night, the Malibu house sat wrapped in ocean mist and darkness, the faint crash of distant waves like a whispering pulse beneath the silence. Maya was reviewing her notes in the living room when soft, almost weightless footsteps brushed across the stone floor. She looked up to find Elena standing in the doorway, small, fragile, clutching the frame as though it was the only thing holding her together. "Maya," she whispered, voice already trembling, "are you still awake?" Maya set her notebook aside. "I'm awake anytime you need me." Elena walked in, but didn't take the sofa. Instead, she sank to the floor, pulling her knees in, arms wrapped around them. The defiance, the sharpness, the biting wit. It was all gone. Only a shadow remained, a shadow shaped by something deeper and darker than anger. "I want to tell you something," she said, eyes fixed on the floor. "But if I say it, everything will change." Maya sat next to her, close enough for support, far enough not to corner her. "Whenever you're ready." Elena inhaled, but the breath shook like glass about to crack. "The day Mom died? It wasn't like people said. They said it was an accident." Her throat tightened. "But I know why she got on the boat that day." Maya waited, still as a held breath. "We fought," Elena said, words scraped raw. "I told her, 'I wish you'd stop coming with me everywhere. You make everything worse.'" A tear dropped onto her knee. She didn't yell, she didn't get mad. She just said, "Then I'll give you space, just one last trip." Elena's fingers curled, knuckles turning white. Minutes later, the boat flipped, her voice fractured. "I thought she was joking. I thought she just wanted to scare me. But then, she didn't come back up." Maya rested a gentle hand on her arm. Elena didn't pull away. "And at the funeral," Elena's voice shrank, "Vivienne said, 'You broke your father's heart.'" A blade of cruelty that had stayed lodged inside her for 2 years. "And Dad?" Elena swallowed, barely audible. "He locked Mom's research room. He never talked about her, not once. I thought he couldn't look at me because it was my fault." Maya felt something twist inside her chest. All the outbursts, the provocation, the chaos. None of it was rebellion. It was a child trying to become unlovable, so no one could be hurt by loving her again. "No," Maya whispered firmly. "You didn't cause her death. You were a kid who said something out of anger. Every kid does that. A tragedy is still a tragedy." Elena shook her head as tears spilled. But Dad... He was too shattered to face anything that reminded him of her, Maya said softly. But he never blamed you. You don't know that. Then let's ask him. Elena lifted her head, terrified. No, he'll come, Maya said, already standing, phone in hand, and he'll listen. She called Dr. Hale. His voice cracked with fear the moment she said, "Come home, Elena needs you, not tomorrow, now." 25 minutes later, the door flew open, ocean air rushing in behind him. Dr. Hale nearly sprinted across the living room to his daughter curled in the corner of the sofa. "Are you hurt? What happened? Maya?" "She has something to tell you," Maya said gently, stepping aside. Elena shot her a pleading look, and Maya gave a small nod. "You can do this." The girl inhaled shakily and whispered, I think I caused Mom's death." Dr. Hale sank to his knees as though the floor had dropped beneath him. He stared at her, devastation and love colliding in his eyes. "No," he said, the word breaking. "Elena, no. Not for 1 second did I ever think that." Elena sobbed. "But I told her to leave me alone." And then she left forever. Dr. Hale pulled her into his arms, holding her with the desperation of someone terrified of losing her twice. "Elena, the accident was an accident. The mistake was mine. I was so broken I couldn't talk about her. I thought silence would protect you. I was wrong." His voice shattered. "I miss your mother every day, but never, not once, did I blame you." Elena cried into his chest, clutching him like she had allowed herself to be small for the first time since the tragedy. Maya stepped back, giving them space. This was what needed to happen. The wound that had ruled both their lives was finally being named aloud. And for the first time, in that cold, echoing house, the sound of crying didn't destroy. It healed. The moment of father and daughter clinging to each other, crying openly for the first time, still lingered in the air like warmth that hadn't yet faded. Maya watched them quietly, feeling something long sealed finally loosen, like a locked door cracking open to let the ocean breeze in. Elena stayed close to Benedict, her eyes swollen but her breathing softer. None of them knew how fragile this piece was, how easily it could fracture. And it did. Rushed footsteps echoed down the hallway, Maria's voice breaking. "Mr. Hale, something is missing from the display room." Benedict straightened, Elena grabbing his sleeve instinctively. Maya followed them quickly, a knot forming in her chest. When the door to the exhibit opened, the cold white lighting revealed rows of flawless glass shelves, and in the middle of one, a sharp empty gap, like a tooth ripped out. Lydia's silver crystal resonance tuner was gone. Benedict stared at the space as if the world had slipped sideways. No, this can't be." His hand touched the empty shelf, his face collapsing with each breath. And then Vivian appeared. She entered with a calm that felt rehearsed, her eyes gliding over the room before settling on Maya. Too directly, too knowingly. "Oh," Vivian murmured, almost softly. "What an unfortunate coincidence." She bent down, picking up a folded slip of paper near the cabinet. The movement was slow, gentle, terrifyingly deliberate. "This must have fallen from your bag," she said, holding it out for Benedict to see. A receipt from an antique shop in Santa Monica. Item, crystal resonance tuner. Resale, $18,000. Silence thickened until breathing felt impossible. Benedict took the paper between trembling fingers. The look in his eyes wasn't anger, it was heartbreak. The betrayal of someone who had finally reached out and immediately been burned. "Maya?" His voice cracked around her name. "You took Lydia's instrument?" Elena shook her head violently. She didn't. "No," Maya whispered, stunned. I never touched it. I don't know what that paper—" "But it was in your bag," Vivian said, sweetly merciless. "I'm being framed," Maya said, her voice splintering. "Please, listen to me." "Enough!" Benedict turned away, the pain too much to face. "I can't risk Elena's safety." The last sentence struck like a physical blow. Elena reached toward Maya, but her fingers were too slow, too small to grasp anything that mattered. Maya met her eyes, saw panic, disbelief, refusal. But the evidence was too exact, too cruelly arranged. "Maya, don't go," Elena whispered, voice breaking. Maya could only shake her head, the gesture heavy with grief, and step out of the room. Each step pulling her further from the place she had only just begun to belong to. Maya's small apartment was still lit, though it was long past midnight. She sat unmoving in her chair, swallowed by the hollow weight left behind after being torn out of Elena's life in a single brutal moment. Everything had happened too fast, too sharply, leaving her unable to even name the pain. Then the doorbell rang, rapid, urgent. "Maya, open up!" "Elena?" She burst inside the moment the door opened, cheeks flushed from running, backpack hanging crookedly. "Elena, you—" "No time," Elena cut in, eyes blazing with a resolve Maya had never seen. "You were framed, and I have proof." She dropped to the floor, pulling a slim laptop from her bag. Without searching, she opened a folder marked with a tiny lightning icon. "I installed mini cameras around the house last month," Elena said. "I needed my own eyes. The main system is too easy to break." Before Maya could react, the video was already playing. Vivienne entering the exhibit room, disabling the main camera with effortless precision, pulling a folded receipt from her coat, slipping it into Maya's bag, lifting the crystal resonance tuner, placing it into a black case, and walking out as if taking a breath. Maya felt her throat close. "Elena, you—" "I had to do something," the girl said, voice steady in a way that was new. "You believed me when I didn't believe myself. Now it's my turn." Maya pulled Elena into a grateful, trembling embrace. "What do we do now?" Maya asked. Elena lifted her head. Her eyes were no longer those of a wounded child, but of someone ready to fight back. "Now," she said, "we put the truth back where it belongs." Benedict arrived at Maya's apartment 30 minutes after Elena sent him the video. He stepped inside without hesitation, like a man who had run straight through his own shame to get where he needed to be. When the footage played on the small laptop screen, he didn't speak, didn't breathe loudly. He simply watched, quietly collapsing behind his eyes. When the video ended, he whispered, "I believe you. And I was wrong." A small sentence, yet it loosened every knot in Maya's chest. They returned to the Hale estate that very night. Vivian was seated elegantly with a glass of red wine, poised as though the world always bent around her. But when Benedict played the video before her, the practiced smile shattered like glass hitting tile. "You're mistaken. This could have been edited." "Elena recorded it," Benedict said, his voice cold enough to freeze the room. "And if you lie again, I will sue you for falsifying evidence, trespassing, and intentionally inflicting emotional harm on a child." Vivian's face drained of color. For the first time, Maya saw arrogance crumble into something small and exposed. "Leave my house," Benedict said. "Leave our lives." Vivian turned, her heels clicking like the closing bars of a villain's theme. When the door shut, Elena walked to Maya and took her hand, wordlessly, tightly. Benedict looked at them both with an expression woven from regret and gratitude. "Maya," he said, "if you'll accept, I want you to lead the Lydia Hale Foundation. Acoustic therapy, trauma support, everything Lydia believed in. We need someone who sees the person before the problem." Maya's heart thudded once, deeply. Accept. 6 months later. The Elena Hale Foundation's research wing glimmered with afternoon sunlight. Maya, the youngest director in its history, sat finishing a grad school paper while adding colored stickers to a soundwave model. In the adjacent acoustic lab, Elena and Benedict were adjusting the frequency knobs on a new device. "Dad, you're off beat again," Elena laughed. "I'm trying," Benedict said, laughing too. Their experimental brain music track, Healing Frequency 432 Hertz, played slightly crooked, slightly imperfect, but full of life. From the glass doorway, Maya watched father and daughter tilt their heads to listen, and she understood. Among all the healing frequencies in the world, none was stronger than love finally spoken aloud.